Alright, go ahead. Go.
I am explaining the scramble for Africa.
Toby from Toby.
Toby from Toby here, explaining the struggle for Africa. Relations between North Africa and Europe were millennia old. In fact, North Africa is frequently treated differently by academics, and is not even considered part of the mainstream of African studies. The Mediterranean was able to be navigated much earlier than the rest of African coastline, largely because of the ocean currents and the types of ships they had at the time. Things changed in the late 19th century, largely because of technology.
Do you know what kind of ships they had at the time?
I don't know what kind of ships they had. Normal ships. Normal ships. Things change though. They change in the late 19th century because of technology. The Suez Canal opened in Egypt in 1869. The British facilitated that project because they wanted easier access to India and much more efficient. They wanted access to India much more efficiently. And as a result of wanting to make money off of it and not let it fall into the hands of rival powers, they actually took control of Egypt in 1882.
Damn.
Yeah, no, this is crazy. Italy colonized Libya late. There isn't a whole lot in Libya as far as European perceptions of wealth. It's largely a desert. There's nothing they can mine. They didn't know about oil at the time.
Can you explain European views of wealth? European ideas of wealth?
European perceptions of wealth were things that they can mine, like coal and gold and things like that they could trade.
Okay.
Right?
So actual wealth is.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I don't. Yeah. European perceptions of wealth. Yeah. Things that were easily traded, but they didn't know about oil at the time. So even though there was oil in Libya, they didn't know about it.
Oh, I see.
And you can't really farm for it or anything. There was no. Oh yeah. Also, like area you can farm. You know, like land.
Okay.
And there wasn't a lot of that in Libya. It's mostly desert.
Okay.
It was one of the last countries to be colonized. And at a time when Italy was scrambling to establish itself as one of the great European powers, essentially, they were coming from the perspective that they had to have a colony in order to be considered great. West Africa, Jonah!
Yeah?
Had a lot of contact with Europeans for centuries before the 1880s.
Okay.
Although the Europeans stayed largely on the coastlines because of the slave trade, the people fled to the interior, thinking that they were safe.
Okay.
They thought they were safe.
Okay. And why weren't they safe?
Because Africa was going to be colonized.
Okay.
They thought that if they went inland, they weren't going to be colonized. They thought they were going to be safe. But they weren't, Jonah.
Okay.
They weren't safe.
Okay.
Two major technology changes allowed the Europeans to expand. One was the discovery of quinine. Quinine, Jonah. Quinine!
Okay.
The region is tropical, and malaria is endemic. Quinine is used to treat malaria.
Okay.
Used to treat it. Which allowed Europeans to travel into the region without dying from malaria.
Okay.
It's crazy. That's why they could travel to Africa.
It's weird that a medical advancement like that would be considered bad for the African tribes. That's kind of interesting.
Well, no. That medical advancement itself wasn't bad for the African tribes, but that medical advancement ended up being bad. Because it led to Europeans being able to come to Africa.
Yeah. So maybe they were better off with malaria.
Yeah. And obviously Africans didn't know about quinine, so they didn't have it. Just the Europeans. The second technological advancement was the steamship.
Okay.
So there's the answer. It wasn't normal ships, it was steamships. Huh.
Well, no. Before they didn't have steamships.
No. But they were talking about how they use ships to get over to Africa. It's the steamship.
Yeah.
A lot of African rivers are not navigable. You cannot navigate them by sail.
Okay.
But with the arrival of the steamship, they could go up rivers they were never able to go up to before.
Okay.
Never. Because of quinine treating malaria and steamships, West Africa was penetrable, and Europeans were able to go in much further inland. This was hugely disruptive to the local economies in Africa.
Okay.
Although the slave trade had ended a long time ago, slavery was abolished in America. Europeans still used the local population to work for them.
That's
they made
embarrassing.
the local Africans work for the Europeans still. In extracting resources, they used them to work on plantations, things like that. This was also culturally disruptive to the Africans.
Yeah.
This allowed Europeans to penetrate further from West Africa into Central Africa. The Belgians were the primary colonizers inside Central Africa.
The Belgians.
With
Okay.
the Belgians, yeah. No one cares about the
Where
Belgians.
is it Belgium? Yeah. Where is Belgium?
Yeah.
Toby?
In Europe. Belgium is in Europe.
Okay.
You didn't know that?
Well, I knew it was in Europe. I just.
No, you didn't know that. So,
Okay. Well, continue.
they were the primary colonizers in Central Africa, with the Congo being the largest colony in the region. Largest.
Okay.
The Belgian king Leopold,
Leopold?
it's a silly name, saw this area.
That's a little culturally insensitive. I'd say.
No, yeah, you know what? Maybe it is, but I'm tired. I've been inside the whole day. Oh, the whole week. Saw this area, which was almost completely rainforest, as his personal property. He is very well known for his stark brutality. There are lots of stories about his employees cutting off the arms of the native population.
Wow.
He was trying to extract as many resources as possible.
Including the arms?
Including what?
Including the arms of the natives?
Yeah.
Wow. What did he use them for?
I don't know. Well, I mean, he didn't use the arms like themselves, but he used them to like enforce them, like as to show an example.
He whipped them with arms? I don't.
No, Jonah. He would cut off people's arms. He would cut off the native population's arms so that he could show the other what's it called, quote unquote employees, what happens to them if they don't extract his resources.
Okay. I see. Okay. Continue.
And he was not, of course, he wasn't regarding the local population in any humanitarian way, obviously. One of the major resources they had him take from the area was rubber. It had a huge environmental impact.
Okay.
But it was also economically and culturally disruptive. Now, East Africa, we haven't delved into East Africa yet. That's crazy. Wow, it doesn't look like you're doing so well. It was a bit of a latecomer to European colonialism.
Okay.
This is where you find the one area that managed to escape the scramble for Africa. And that was, guess what? Guess what?
What?
Guess what?
Yeah,
Ethiopia. What? Ethiopia.
Uh-huh.
During this period, Jonah, Ethiopia had a very powerful, very strong, oh, looks like you lost,
Yeah,
emperor.
I did, and now I'm doing sprint.
Menelik II.
Menelik the second?
Yeah. And his warfare tactics were superior to the Italians.
Okay.
This because when the Italians tried to colonialize Ethiopia and East Africa, they were defeated by the Ethiopians. Italy was defeated by the Ethiopians.
How embarrassing.
And it was soundly. They defeated them soundly. And because of that, other European nations decided to try to not colonize the region as well.
That's good. I'm glad to hear that.
Menelik. I just knocked off a piece of my monitor. Menelik was able to keep Ethiopia relatively independent until the World War.
That's awesome, dude. There's
other areas of East. No, you don't get to talk here. I talk. The other areas of East Africa fell under British or German control. In Kenya, about 10% of the population is of British descent. Today,
Well, this is an embarrassing game. Okay.
it was very much a settler colony, similar to South Africa. It's
Okay.
probably the best known example on the continent.
Uh huh.
There is a large European descendant population in southern Africa.
Mhm.
With South Africa, looks like you had to replay because you suck. With
No.
South Africa having the largest population, with smaller white populations in Zimbabwe and in Zambia.
Ethiopia? Wait,
In Zambia.
what about Ethiopia?
Jonah,
I thought it was independent.
they were independent.
Yeah, so
We're
would be
talking
lower.
about no. We're talking about other areas in East Africa that were colonized,
yeah.
and those places were Zimbabwe and Zambia.
Okay.
Or there were some of the places. Actually, no. I'm sorry. I am so sorry. Those are the places in southern Africa.
Oh,
Those,
okay.
those are examples of places in southern Africa. I'm sorry.
Uh-huh.
This is a result of British imperialism.
Yes, imperialism.
The image of the Colossus of Rhodes as a picture of Cecil John Rhodes
Okay.
standing over Africa, holding Africa up with strings is portrayed. The image of Rhodes epitomizes British designs on the continent.
Okay.
And it comes largely from Cecil Rhodes' involvement in southern Africa. He acquired a lot of land personally in southern Africa. The colony of Rhodesia, now referred to as Zimbabwe,
Uh-huh.
was named for him. And he had plans to build the Cape to Cairo Railway and telegraph line.
Mhm.
And
Telegraph line.
line.
What year is this in?
this is in around 1885. Or sorry, no, 1892. I apologize. 1892.
Okay.
In a settler colony, the colonizers invest in reproducing their own culture in those colonies. They build homes, they build farms, they build churches that are for their own use. They're not missionary churches. What you thought they were mission? They're not missionary.
You're right. You're right. I actually did think that.
They're not missionary churches. That hurt my head.
Okay. Well,
That's an
what kind of
important
church are they?
difference. That's an important difference
Okay.
between a settler colony or a settler colony and other types of colonies. Elsewhere, the Europeans would go in to convert or Europeanize.
Yeah. Yes.
Europeanize.
Just like they did in Texas.
Yeah, the local
Spaniards
population.
did in Texas. Yeah.
But they're mainly there to extract resources and goods. In the settler colonies, the Europeans' goal was to live there. And they want to make money, obviously. But this is their home now. It's where their grandkids are going to grow up. It changes the dynamics and the politics involved.
Okay.
This is why, in South Africa, and throughout the region, there was a lot of racial tension between whites and blacks.
Yeah.
It's also where the policy... This is also where the policy of apartheid came from. The
Okay.
policy of separation of the races that existed for half a century. South African whites consider themselves South African. They're not European anymore.
Well, yeah.
Why is this still important? Why are we still talking about colonialism even though it's been over for half a century? Ooh.
It was very
But you can
detrimental
still
to the
Yeah.
culture of Africa.
But you can still see the ramifications of colonialism. You can still see them. As well as the process of decolonization. Africa is incredibly diverse. So you have to look at each country
That's great.
as its own separate case. But to generalize, the process of decolonization was very disruptive. Some of the independence movements were very, very violent, Mr. Green. And you have the fallout from that politically, culturally, economically, and socially. some of the European countries maintain ties, especially economic ties. We see this in French West Africa, but they still control the economic processes in a lot of their former colonies. A normal person, for example, will find... No, you had to give up again. A normal...
Such an asshole, Toby.
A normal person, for example, will find their employment opportunities limited if they don't speak French or weren't educated in the French system. And this is a result of the rapid pace with which these countries were decolonized. This plays out in racial attitudes as well. One of the starkest examples of this is the 1994 genocide in Rwanda. The genocide has direct links back to German colonization. They divided the local ethnic group to control them. They took the wealthier people and called them one ethnic group. And used them... I apologize. And used them to control the poor population, which they called a second ethnic group. So they were actually taking one social class and making them ethnicities. Actually, they were taking both social classes, and making them ethnicities. They completely constructed a new definition of two different peoples that used to be one. They pitted one against the other. They took the wealthy minority and put them in charge of the poor, gave them access to better education and opportunities. Until after several generations, they felt different from the majority, and the Germans just left. And you had the problem of reconciling these two ethnicities, who now have a long history of unfairness and unequal access to resources and power, and ended up turning into a genocide. It's a relatively unique situation, but that sort of manipulation by the Europeans that took place during colonialism still has lingering effects, even now they are gone. This is Toby, coming to you from Toby, about the scramble for Africa.
Or something like that? Do you want to practice it?
I never told you I had that, but what I do have now is arguably better than Diary of a Wimpy Kid. It's called Rabbi Harvey versus the Wisdom Kid, a graphic novel of dueling Jewish folktales in the Wild West. Would you like me to read this to you?
Yes, I would also like the pictures.
Alright, how can I do this? I can like...
Yeah, just send me the
I can turn on my camera and have it, like, read.
You know what? Please, Toby.
One fine fall day, near the town of Elk Spring, Colorado, high in the Rocky Mountains, Solomon Bloomfield III, a banker from Denver, was struggling to stay afloat in the rushing current of the Black Bear River.
Thank you, Caden.
What happened? Black Bear.
Yes.
In about a minute, Mr. Bloom would arrive at a beautiful waterfall.
It's Toby.
Help me!
It's Toby.
Help
Please
me!
let him
Wait,
read.
who is that? Wait, who is that?
I would kill him too.
Shortly after that, First Colorado Bank would be looking for a new vice president. Mr. Bloom had one last chance. Between the banker and the falls sat Rabbi Harvey, famous throughout the West for his love of learning, justice, and fresh trout.